Well, Greece faces years of painful cuts in salaries to return a multi-billion-dollar bailout from the IMF and the EU. The country's finance minister called it a choice between collapse or salvation. The Prime Minister warned of tough times ahead, preparing the country for great sacrifices, which will include savage pay cuts for public workers and changes to labour laws. The May Day crowds in Athens made their feelings known. 7 police officers were injured and 9 demonstrators arrested during marches. There have already been deep cuts to pay and pensions to try and stop the country going bankrupt. But Greeks don't just feel they're being held to ransom by the EU and the IMF. They're also furious their government's reluctant to touch its massive defence budget. RT's Anissa Nawi reports.
Nick, 27 and overqualified, hasn't been able to find a job in Athens for a year. Most of his friends are in the same boat, drowning in the Greek debt crisis.
My generation is very skeptical about it because we now face a future that we have no pension, with lower salaries than ever, and with no light in the end of the tunnel.
In the face of collapse, Greece began to cut its public spending, starting with salaries, schools, and other social programs. And only in the last few days has the government said it will touch the country's enormous defense budget. Greece spends more of its GDP on military equipment than any other EU country. And with some $400 billion of debt, claims are being made that any bailout from European neighbors or NATO allies means buying warships first. Well, some say it's the only way to stay afloat. Implications are flying that these deals help secure an EU-IMF bailout.
It's a very extraordinary situation. The same governments, the same leaders who are pushing Greece to cut expenses, to cut our deficit, are pushing at the same time our government to buy more military equipment from their government or from their military enterprises.
Protesters claim Greece isn't fighting for its own national interest, but for third parties. Despina Kutsumba is a member of the Greek Civil Servants Trade Union, a mother and an activist. She is now not only fighting to make rent, but on the streets, trying to get answers from her government.
We have NATO here, and NATO, Frontex, and all these global organizations that cost us a lot of money and make us spend a lot of money in it's not only the defense budget for buying weapons for Greece. It's also the defense money that we spend on soldiers that we send in other countries. What do they need, the Greek soldiers in Afghanistan?
Despina wants answers because she wants a future.
Next year will be worse and worse and worse. We can have a control of our life. You know, I have a child, and I wanted, I'm 36 years old. I wanted to have a second child, and now I'm thinking, can I have a second child? Can I afford the house I'm living in?
Anissa Nawi, RT, Athens.